I know you can really see it, but I love that setup. Comfy, most comfortable stream ever, just chilling out in bed. What? How you all doing? Man, what a chill day. Apologies, I've lost the charger to my phone and I can't be bothered to find the GH5. It's there. So we're going another level lower in really bad video. Up ahead. Well, the camera's there, so up ahead. But, woo! Had a proper chilled out day today, with one exception. My doggo is wounded and he's looking proper miserable. He got a nasty clump of fur in his pit and he's been trying to nibble it out. And bless him, he hates being brushed, so we had to cut it out. But then where we've cut it out and there's a bald patch there, he's been licking and nibbling it. And now we have to try and stop him from doing so. But the majority of my day has, I would say I'd come to a realization, but it's not like this is anything new to me. I streamed a bit of Final Fantasy VII Remake on Steam Deck. And when I originally played Final Fantasy VII Remake on PlayStation 4, I wasn't really all that sold on it. You know, it is a remake, not a remaster. So it's not the original Final Fantasy VII story reworked into a new engine. It is a complete re-envisioning of the Final Fantasy VII story and reworked, re-released. It's going to be cut into chunks and all that. And even the chunks that the game is going to be released in are very different from the way that I played the game all the way back in the 90s. Right? I'm an old boy. I remember I remember those days very well. In fact, I was talking to folks on stream. Dark Rider was there, and I was like, you know, this entire segment, Final Fantasy Remake, takes place in Midgar, which is only a chunk of the first disc, if we remember rightly now. I was like, oh yeah, I think the first disc ends around about the Tiny Bronco stage, which is well out of Midgar. Dark Rider's like, nah man, it goes all the way up to, I think it's the Forgotten City, miles in, right? Midgar is only a very small section of the game, but Final Fantasy Remake stretches out the Midgar section of the game beyond the length of what most people spent in the original release of the game from 1997. I mean, I think when I beat Final Fantasy VII Remake, it took me somewhere between 30 and 50 hours. The original game, I think, even with faffing around, the entirety of the original game is only about 30 to 50 hours. So what they're going to do is to like how much bigger they're going to stretch that game out. I don't really know. That said, though, to see how much Final Fantasy VII has resonated with me over the years is amazing, because we have had a Final Fantasy VII day. As I streamed it, and afterwards my wife and I, she saw that I was checking back my stream, or she heard that I was checking back my stream. The Final Fantasy VII soundtrack is iconic, and a part of it popped up on the TV, and the wife was like, oh hey, is that Final Fantasy VII? And I was like, yeah, I'm just checking back. She's like, it's not the movie, is it? I was like, no. She's like, I was like, do you want to watch the movie Final Fantasy VII Advent Children? And she was like, well, yeah, sure, can we? And so I grabbed a copy on Apple TV, and we sat and we watched that. And that was interesting too, because it was considerably longer than what I remember it being all the way back in 2006. I don't remember when it first came out, but I remember when that film came out, it was fantastic. For the time, it looked absolutely beautiful. The music was fantastic. The way they envisioned these characters was phenomenal. The voice acting on because at the time it was the Japanese release, fantastic. The subtitles, the fan subs were great. It was a bit kind of like out there, but it was a fantastic film. Or at least I thought it was a fantastic film. As a Final Fantasy fan, I mean, when certain songs hit or certain fight sequences happened, it was just, and you'd see like moves from the game, limit breaks from the game, turn up in this fleshed out environment, this fleshed out world. They looked amazing. Like there's a fight with Tifa in a church, and at one point she just gets fucking grabbed and thrown, and she's about to hit a wall, and she manages to recover in the last second, and you can see how much power or how much force she was thrown at the wall with, because the flowers underneath this wall, the petals start to get blown off as she literally freezes and hangs it in place. Fucking the fight scenes in that film, over the top, fantastic. But the film was much longer, kind of like Final Fantasy VII Remake, right? I was like, there was loads of like little flashbacks and little extra bits of story, and I was like, am I that old that I don't remember these scenes, or is there something extra going on here that I didn't realise? And it turns out the version that we picked up on the Apple TV, because we had to watch it with the English dub as well, which I fucking hated. When that dub came out, I was not a fan at all. The dubs were done back in the days when dubs weren't great. They were still a bit on the flaky side, and you had these characters where there was supposed to be kind of a lot of emotion going on, and they seemed very static and very stale and very not connected to the characters. It was almost like they had a script in front of them, they had no idea what was going on, they were just talking into a microphone. The dub was a bit, it didn't land very well with me back in the day, but there was an extra 20-30 minutes of footage in this remake, or this re-envisioning of it, the 4K HD remaster. And my gods, those additional pieces of content, that obviously not only did I not remember them, they weren't there, right? They really made that dub work. The quality of the dub didn't seem any better, because they even got a few of the guys to come in and rework to do the additional footage, but it worked. It made the dub work. It was still a bad dub, but it filled in a lot of gaps, and it was fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Even some of the fight scenes, there was gore in a fight, well, not gore, it was blood in a fight scene, and I was like, I do not remember that at all. Like, at all. There's blood pouring out of this character. What is going on? Yeah, they've added all this stuff in, and it was really good. Some of the music had changed. As I say, additional scenes, additional content, establishing where one of the main characters had come from, and some character development as well was really, really nice. Bits where there were gaps, like hard cuts. Some fights were extended. There would be like, hard cut, nothing. Straight, like hard cut from this scene to this scene, and you're like, how did that character even get there? Well, they've added in additional content. There's the additional content includes how those characters get there. There's more transitional material that makes it flow that much better. It was a lot quicker in the last one, in the original cut, but this one has a much better flow to it. It was really, really nice. I did really like the additional content, including the ending. Initially, when I saw the ending, the after credits sequence, I was like, I don't know, and then it cuts to another piece. This ending bit is only in the remaster. There are two scenes, just static scenes, a pull away from a wide shot of Midgar, and then another shot from, I won't say if you haven't seen it, but the initial wide shot, I was like, I don't know how I feel to that. Then it cuts to the second shot, and I was like, that's brilliant. I love that. Fantastic. Great way to just, bam, end it. But in playing Remake and watching the remaster of the film, it has really hit how much the world of Final Fantasy VII means to me, how much it has affected me through my life. I still get chills when certain songs hit, when I see certain characters that I remember so much about these characters from this game. And I'm going to say something that's going to be sacrilege to a lot of Final Fantasy VII fans. Final Fantasy VII's story is not that good. It's not. It is good, but there isn't a lot to it. There's a lot of dead space in Final Fantasy VII. Once you get out of Midgar, there isn't a lot to it. So there's 2 discs of not a lot. And yet somehow it's stuck in the brain. It's going to be amazing to see how they add all of this additional content in for the further remakes. I can't remember if there's going to be 3 remakes or 4 parts to it, 3 or 4 parts. But like, honestly, the way they adapted Midgar, initially when I played the game in the remake, I was like, there's a lot of busybody work here. There's a lot of busy work here that doesn't need to be here. Like, to turn the Midgar section into a 40 to 50 hour game, or a 30 to 50 hour game, when that was only a small portion of the original, which only took in total that time. I was like, there's like all these little side quests and stuff, which in fairness you didn't have to do them all, but in thinking about it now, it made the world seem so much more alive rather than just the hard cuts like the original cut of the movie. All of this additional content has a nice flow that makes the world seem that much more alive, makes it seem that much more believable, and it's really out there. So, but Midgar is the most densely packed of all of the zones in the original game. How are they going to extend the other versions, the other parts of the remake? I'm psyched. I thought I was past Final Fantasy, to be honest. But then in watching the film with my wife this afternoon and playing part of the remake, it just reminded me how much I love that game. It's not my favourite by any stretch, but I still really to this day enjoy Final Fantasy VII. When Crisis Core, it's the prequel to Final Fantasy VII, when that game got announced to have a remake, it's the one we play as Zack Fair. When the remake of that game got announced, there was a little kind of, I gushed a little, there was a bit of a squee. I got all like, oh mate, the heart fluttered. Because Crisis Core, Final Fantasy VII Crisis Core, is my favourite of the Final Fantasies. All of them, not just 7, not, oh, you got 7 and Crisis Core and Before Crisis and Dirge of Cerberus. No, not just that chunk and Advent Children, not just that chunk, all of them, from 1 through to 15 at this point. Crisis Core is my favourite Final Fantasy game. And I am so psyched. It's coming out in December on PC. I can't wait. I really hope it gets released on Steam Deck. I really hope it gets the old Steam Deck verified right off the bat, which in fact it should do, because Final Fantasy VII Remake got the verified for Deck treatment right off the bat. And let's be fair, the fact that you can play a top of the line, top end, last gen game on Steam Deck, and what was considered a premier title when it got redone for PlayStation 5 with the as Intergrade, where you get the Yuffie expansion bundled in. The fact you can play that on the go makes the Steam Deck that much more impressive to me. The idea that there is no extra work for these companies to do to bring out a handheld version, unlike what they have to do for Switch. Because let's be fair, there's a lot of games that can't come out on Switch because it's not powerful enough. Even if they do a lot of work to get it to down that level, I would be psyched to have Crisis Core again which was originally as a PSP game, I would love to have a remake of that on the go, which admittedly I will likely dock. I bought the Crisis Core PSP back in the day because it had component out so you could plug it into a telly. That's how I played Crisis Core back in the day, hooked up to a TV set. It was great. Love that game. Fantastic soundtrack, fantastic gameplay, fantastic characters, story completely fucking out there, but absolutely brilliant. Oh, I feel so old though. So old. What a great game. So let's put it this way, I feel so old, the child actors from Final Fantasy VII Advent Children, the film, they had to be recast for the 2000 and I don't know when the complete edition came out. Was that? See, I keep thinking 2010, but I think it might have been last year or something like that. It was quite recent. The 4K version came out. I don't know if the rework was for that or for another version in like 2010 or whatever, but they had to recast the child actors because they'd gotten older. Their voices had changed too much for the extra dialogue work that they had to do for the expanded cut. So I feel even older now. But I just wanted to throw that out there. That was my groove for the day. And is it Nobu Uematsu who did the Final Fantasy VII soundtrack? That guy had no fucking training for piano and all that and composition, but he has nailed some of the most iconic tracks in video gaming history, and they still resonate with me hardcore to this day. Fantastic, absolutely fantastic. I cannot wait for the rest of the remakes. I'm a lot more forgiving of Final Fantasy VII Remake years later after playing it. I mean, I called where the story was going in Final Fantasy VII Remake right off the bat. Didn't take long for me to call that one out. I'm not gonna again spoil it here just in case anyone hasn't played it, but initially, those extra cuts, that extra stuff, as I said, I felt it was busybody work. Now, I'm a lot more accepting of it. It works. The extra story for Biggs and Wedge and Jesse, the way that the audio has been redone, you know, a lot of the extra stuff really helps sell it. It really does help sell it. It's not the same game I played in 1997. It's not the same story that we had, but it is a complete remake and it is a good one. So I'm changing my stance. It was a fun game with a lot of busybody work in it. Now I'd say it's a good game. I don't mind the busybody so much. That's top. That's solid. But I'm going to head off because I just realised I'm talking for nearly 20 minutes. It should have only taken me about 3. It's been a nice day. Just literally chilling out. Let me put it this way. Final Fantasy VII it was big enough for me that when my wife and I first got together, it was like over 2008, 2009. So it wasn't when we very first got together, but we both played through. She was pregnant with our eldest son. We had a race through Final Fantasy VII. See who could get through it first. With only one, there was one stipulation, one requirement. You could not use a chocobo to get past the desert at the start of the game outside of Midgar. You had to, if you got caught by, you had to fight the snake and win. The Midgar Zolm, I think it's called. You have to fight that fucking thing. And yeah, that was fun. My wife's favourite is Final Fantasy 9. I wasn't a huge fan of 9. 7 and 8 are 2 of my favourites. in that series. And Crisis Core, as I say, is easily up there. Final Fantasy 11 is fantastic. Final Fantasy 14 is pretty solid. And I was surprised how much I enjoyed Final Fantasy 15. But anyway, it's weird how, you know, first impressions can be pretty damning, but over time, opinions change. You start to kind of, you start to understand what all of that stuff was there for. You know, you do let the nostalgia goggles kick in and kind of maybe taint the vision a bit. You know, it's not what I remember. It's not how I remember. Oh my God, what are you doing? They've ruined it. They haven't. It's just different. And if you look at it as its own thing and take a step back and stop comparing it to the thing from when you were younger, you might actually find you'll like it. Look at it with a fresh set of eyes and yeah. Anyway, I'm gonna head off. I think I'm gonna go and listen to a couple of Final Fantasy soundtracks. The Black Mages albums, actually right now, I think. Those were solid. And Final Fantasy VII Crisis Core soundtrack was great too, although that wasn't done by Nobu, but that was still a good soundtrack. Hope you're well. I'm an old fogey, and I'll see you all with a bit of luck in the next one.